This is my early review for Halloween, the 2018 version, or the Blumhouse version of Halloween, because now we have 3 movies with the same title. It's the 11th film in the franchise, the 10th one to feature Michael Myers, and pretty much it takes place 40 years after the original film. Michael Myers is returning to Haddonfield, but this time Laurie Strode, played once again by Jamie Lee Curtis, is prepared for his arrival. Like, she is set, ready to kill him. And that's pretty much the plot. You can't get any more simple than that. So as of recording this review, I have seen most of the films in the franchise. I will be reviewing the sequels and the 2 Rob Zombie movies after this movie's actually released in theaters. But really briefly, the original Halloween, we all know, is a classic. It's the movie that helped launch the slasher genre. It launched the career of John Carpenter. It launched the career of Jamie Lee Curtis. It made Michael Myers into one of the most iconic figures in all of horror. And it's just a great movie all around. It's absolutely phenomenal. It made it into my list of top 100 favorite movies of all time. I love it. The other Halloween movies I've seen are 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Rob Zombie remake. And I will save my opinions for the actual reviews. But we got this movie right here, which for the longest time was going to be the 3rd film in the Rob Zombie series. I don't think Rob Zombie was supposed to direct it, but it was just one of these things where it's like, okay, I guess. But time went on, nothing really happened. And then I think maybe about last year, there was finally news about a new Halloween movie. And when hearing about the news, I was just like, okay, let's see what they got. John Carpenter's coming back? That's fine. I mean, James Cameron gave his approval for Terminator Genesis, and we all know how that turned out. Wait a minute. It's going to be a sequel to the original Halloween, ignoring all the movies in between? Wait a minute. It's going to be co-produced by Jason Blum, who has been on a hot streak in terms of horror movies? Wait a minute. John Carpenter is going to do the music as well? Wait a minute. Jamie Lee Curtis is returning as Laurie Strode? Okay, I'm on board with this. Let's see what we got. So I saw the movie early. It premiered over at Toronto and Fantastic Fest, and everyone's been giving praise to this movie. And I saw it just recently, and I dig this a lot. When it comes to slasher movies, I'm not a huge fan of them. I mean, I'll save my full opinions for the Halloween sequels once I actually review them. But with the exception of the original Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Psycho from Alfred Hitchcock, oh, and Nightmare on Elm Street, I have just not been on board with a lot of slasher movies. Like, the big pinnacle for me is the Friday the 13th series, which is all about watching people get killed, having sex, doing drugs, and just seeing how creative the kills can be. So, I mean, with all the things I just listed, this had the potential to be something good, but it could also just fall on its face completely. And I'm happy that's not the case at all. This feels like the true sequel to the original Halloween, to the point where you really want to ignore all the other movies that have come before. Now again, I'm saving my thoughts for the sequels for the actual reviews, but this one is just the best movie since the original, at least from all the other movies I've seen. This movie is in spirit with the original Halloween, but at the same time doesn't really feel the need to mimic the original Halloween. There are elements in this movie where you will go, oh, that reminds me of the original, but it's never like with the Rob Zombie version where they felt like, okay, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. This movie's like, we're just gonna go with our movie. We'll have moments that will remind you of the first Halloween and some of the other sequels, but we're gonna try to make this our own thing. We're gonna make this a continuation, not a retread. And it has a great atmosphere to it. It's tension-filled a lot of the time. Michael Myers is the scariest he's been since the original Halloween. And it's also really brutal with its kills. I will say that with the Halloween series, they've never been about really creative kills. It was more about the atmosphere, the suspense, and the brutality. And this movie, there are some creative kills throughout. Some of them got a huge reaction from the audience, to the point where I'd even say that this movie has better kills than the remake of Friday the 13th, because the Friday the 13th series has always been known for its really inventive kills. That's the entire point of the franchise. But the kills in the remake just felt kind of underwhelming. There was nothing that really stood out and made you go, that's a memorable kill, or wow, that's cool. Which is surprising that Halloween, again, has never been about creative kills, but this movie is really inventive with some kills, but it's mostly brutal, and you really feel the hits. I already breezed over the fact that Michael Myers is the scariest he's been since the original 1978 film, and that's ultimately due to the fact that it stays in spirit with his motivation and the fact that he really doesn't have one. As Dr. Loomis stated in the original movie, he just says that Michael is pure evil, and that's the only explanation you need. You don't know what's driving him to kill. In this movie, they've retconned the idea that he and Laurie Strode are actually brother and sister.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother. That's something that people made up.
So that makes it even more creepy and less of a motivation for Michael Myers to go after Laurie Strode. And it's just incredibly effective. There are many moments in this movie that will put you on the edge of your seat, especially with the third act. I won't say much, but the third act will really have you biting your nails in how intense it is. Now let's talk about Laurie Strode, because I absolutely love what they did with the character this time around. Jamie Lee Curtis is once again back because the original Halloween was the movie that launched her career, and what I always loved about Laurie Strode in the Halloween series, more than other slasher movies, because other slasher genres don't really have reoccurring characters, is that Laurie Strode is sort of like Ellen Ripley in a way. She's not helpless, she's proactive, but she's vulnerable. And that's kind of what this movie is. I mentioned Ellen Ripley, but this movie really makes Laurie Strode out to be like Ellen Ripley / Sarah Connor, where she is tough, she's prepped, she's ready for Michael's return, but again, she's vulnerable. She's not 100% invincible, she's not 100% tough, she's not cold-hearted. You get why she's doing all this and her reasoning for waiting for Michael Myers to come back, and you buy it. Jamie Lee Curtis does a phenomenal job in this role, and with everything that they've given this character to do, it makes total sense. Now, as of this recording, I have not seen Halloween H2O, but from what I've read, H2O and this movie sound nearly identical, so I'll be curious to see what they did with Laurie Strode in that movie as opposed to this one. But right here, I love what they did with Laurie Strode. In terms of your other characters, you have Judy Greer, who plays Laurie Strode's daughter, and I always love Judy Greer. And then you have an actress named Andi Matichak. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I've never seen this actress before, but she plays Laurie Strode's granddaughter. She's really good as well. She does not at all fit the persona of teenagers that you'd see in other slasher movies. Even for some recent horror movies like Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, she feels very real, she's not cartoonish, and she's very likable. And in terms of the relationship between all three of these characters, it's believable. You really get a sense of what each woman thinks of the other, and you see how the events of the first movie and Michael's return has affected all of them. It's really compelling to watch, even more than the Michael Myers stuff, to be honest. Now, one of the big defining traits of the Halloween series is the score, and John Carpenter once again comes back to do the score along with two other people, and it's phenomenal as well. You get the iconic Halloween theme, of course, because you can't go without it, but there are a lot of new musical cues that really adds to the atmosphere and just adds to the overall experience, to the point where I am really disappointed that they haven't released it yet. I know they're waiting for the movie to come out, but I already pre-ordered the soundtrack on iTunes because I dug it that much. This is one of my favorite scores of the year. Now, I'm going to say something that's probably going to be sacrilegious to some fans of the original Halloween, and trust me, I'm a fan of the original Halloween. As I said, it's one of my 100 favorite movies of all time. But I actually think some of the dialogue in this movie is better than in the original Halloween. Let me explain, first of all, because as much as I love what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill have done for the original film, there are lines of dialogue in this movie where it plays for comedy that is legitimately funny. It's well written, and it doesn't take away from the movie. You watch it, and you're laughing, but it's almost like a breather to when Michael Myers eventually pops up, and never takes away from the suspense or his overall presence. When you compare that to the original Halloween, where one of Laurie Strode's friends has this weird conversation about how books are useless, she doesn't need books, and it's just more awkward than anything. There are a lot of movies out there that I love that do have some pretty stupid lines, and that one, especially in the original Halloween, sticks out like a sore thumb. Whereas here, I thought there were some legitimately well-written lines, and a lot of intentionally funny moments. Now, this movie's not perfect. If I had one disappointment, it's that there's never a point in this movie that legitimately creeped me out. It's more fun than anything, which I guess is a positive, but I remember seeing the original Halloween movie on TV 11 years ago, and when the movie ended, credits rolled, I could not sleep for the entire night. I was legitimately freaked out by the ending. And this movie never freaked me out. It has its suspenseful moments, and there are many moments that kind of scare you legitimately, and they're not jump scares. But I never left the movie freaked out. I left the movie going, I want to see that again. That was so much fun. So again, not a criticism, but it is disappointing that it didn't give me that feeling that the original Halloween gave me. And then I have one other issue with the movie, and it's that there's a character in this movie who's supposed to be the new Dr. Loomis. I won't say much about this character, but I will say near the third act of the movie, he does something that's really questionable and just had me scratching my head. I'm probably making it sound a lot worse than it actually is, so I'm curious to see what people will think about this particular moment when they see the movie. But for right now, it just kind of made me go, huh? But outside of that, I really dug this movie. Is it as good as the original Halloween movie? Hell no. No Halloween movie will even come close to the original. Is it the best since the original? Well, as of recording this video, I have not seen The Curse of Michael Myers, H2O, Resurrection, or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but I feel confident enough to say, yeah, this is the best sequel since the original. And it's one that's definitely worth seeing in your lifetime. If you are a Halloween fan, like myself, you're going to go into this movie loving it. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be as good as the original, but it will be a very satisfying entry, more satisfying than any of the other movies before it. But if you're not a fan of the slasher genre, this isn't going to win you over to the genre, but you will watch it and go, you know what, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I really dug this. I can't wait to see it again. And that's my review for 2018's Halloween. Now, in terms of reviewing all the other movies that have come before it, I'm going to post my review for the original Halloween 2 the day after this movie is released. So that way you get a full day to watch the movie, and then I will start reviewing all the sequels and the 2 remakes. But until then, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Are you excited for Halloween? If you've seen it, what did you think? Let me know in the comments below, and if you think that this is the best one since the original. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course leave a comment. Don't forget to support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the Real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.